World Sight Day this year was celebrated on Thursday, October 8, and the theme internationally set by the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness was Hope in Sight. Jamaica Society for the Blind usually commemorates the day, and this year was no different. We partnered with the Jamaica Teachers Association and held a public forum via Zoom under the theme Coping with Blindness and Visual Impairment in the Classroom. There is a way. Now let's join Mr. Jasper Gabriel, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, as he gives his address to the meeting.
I'm McLean, Chairman of the Jamaica Society for the Blind. Colleagues all, as President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, on behalf of the entire teaching force, I want to bring very special greetings to all our partners, and in particular the Jamaica Society for the Blind, for this activity today. The theme that is chosen, Hope in Sight, is very, very apt, and can be interpreted in different positive ways. And the Jamaica Teachers Association is committed to partnering with you as we execute this noble cause. So we are pleased to join in this annual Day of Awareness, focusing global attention on blindness and vision impairment. The Jamaica Teachers Association, through our Special Education Committee, led by Patricia Anglin James, is committed to improving the welfare of all educators and learners with different forms of disabilities, including blindness. 1 billion people around the world have a preventable vision impairment, or one that has yet to be addressed. An estimated 100,000 Jamaicans now classified as blind or visually impaired. A breakdown of these statistics show that of this number, about 28,000 are blind. Reduced or absent eyesight can have major and long-lasting effects on all aspects of life, including daily personal activities, interacting with the community, access public services. Reduced eyesight can be caused by several factors, including diseases like diabetes and trachoma, trauma of the eyes, or conditions such as refractive error, cataracts, age-related macular degeneration, or glaucoma. The majority of vision loss can affect people of all age. Hope in Sight, therefore, is aptly chosen, as I said before, and is spreading awareness about the importance of taking care of our vision, sight protection, educating people about the risk involved in not taking care of our eyes and ways to resolve them. As teachers and educators, we can help to detect students with low vision in our class and make the necessary referrals. Let us look out for the symptoms of low vision and visual impairment and modify our classroom environment to accommodate these students. As we celebrate today, let us pray for the vision of the blind. The Jamaica Teachers Association is supporting the Jamaica Society for the Blind and helping to sustain Hope in Sight by committing a monetary contribution to be delivered in short order. God bless you all as you continue to answer the Master's call. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gabriel. I'm so sorry I'm not close by. You see, this virtual platform allows us to see people at a distance.
Yeah.
And it calls for physical distancing. But we should give you a round of applause nonetheless for that commitment. Yes, sir. You said a very important thing, indeed. Our children in the classroom need the commitment of the Jamaica Teachers Association to look out for them. Many persons might be aware of blindness, but visual impairment is another matter that needs a keen eye to detect. And if you cannot detect, if you cannot measure, you certainly cannot treat. As I've said before, the Jamaica Society for the Blind has been there for quite a while, focusing on the school-age child. And in 1988, they did a study that found that cataracts related to rubella was a major factor in blindness in children. However, our immunization program has been so well improved, that is no longer the case, and our school children are well covered with their rubella immunization. But there are other harmful diseases which might be hard to detect. And as such, our attempts to identifying the signs and symptoms are very important. And at this time, may I invite Ms. Miana Francis to make her presentation on the signs and symptoms of visual impairment in the classroom. May we make welcome Ms. Francis?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for that warm welcome, Doctor. And all protocols observed, I'm just going to jump right into the presentation. Now, I have here a nice little checklist that I would normally go through with the teachers in order to, identify children who have visual impairment. Sometimes it can be difficult because children are not aware of what they should be seeing. As far as they're concerned, this is how they've been seeing since they were born. And so it is kind of difficult to identify or to say or to complain that something is going on with my eyes. I think Ms. Duncan should have the presentation. I'm not sure if she could share it on her screen. The checklist. I'm going to go through that as the, okay, so I'm going to go through the checklist as the first part of the presentation, and the second part of the presentation, I'm going to talk to you about some research as it relates to computer vision syndrome and using mobile devices. As Doc was saying, we are in an age where computers is what we're using now, and we're using it every day, and so we have some specific things that we have to bear in mind as it relates to that. Now, you may find a child that has frequent squinting. And I should point out here that some of these that we will identify, it may be normal or it may be relating to something else that is more serious. The thing to do is to make sure you get a vision test done, a comprehensive eye examination. So the child may be frequently rubbing or blinking the eyes. They may have frequent occurrence of styes on the eyelids. And for those who don't know what that means, it is really like a bump or a boil looking thing on the eyelid. We need to get that look at. Now, the eyes may turn in or out. In Jamaica, we said that the child has cast eyes. We have to look into that as well, because those can result in visual disturbances, even blindness in either or both of the eyes. You may see a child holding a book very close to the eyes, very close, or the phone or the tablet, and they're using it really close. And that is usually an indication that the child is nearsighted. The child may be avoiding close work. They don't want to do any reading. They don't want to do anything that is book work. And we might think that, well, the child is not into learning. However, it could be a sign of visual disturbance. When I speak with parents or teachers and they talk about disruptive children, one of the things that comes up sometimes is that sometimes the child will run from the back of the classroom, run to the front of the classroom, goes back to the back of the classroom and the front of the classroom, and they're doing that all day because the child can only see if they're close to the board. And so these are some of the ways in which we can identify that a child may have a visual disturbance. When a child is writing in their book, they may lose a space or skip a line, or they can't see the letters. They may complain that they can't see the letters clearly, or they're jumping. I had a 2-year-old and she demonstrated this symptom, and her mom was very observant to identify that. She noticed that when the child is looking at something, she tilts her head slightly to the right. What we realized is that the vision in the left eye was really quite poor, and so the child was tilting the head slightly to the right in order to see from the right eye. A child may omit a letter or miscall a letter, call it something else. They may see an F, call it a T, may see a D, call it a B. So these children need a comprehensive examination to determine whether or not these are related to visual problems. They may demonstrate poor spelling skills or reversing letters. They may have difficulty completing their schoolwork. So instead of doing a half an hour project in the specified time, they take hours to complete the time because it is so difficult with poor vision. They may have a short attention span, and they may also have poor eye and hand coordination. So right away, this is a long checklist of things that we can look out for, but once we identify any of this, it is a signal that we need to get an eye examination for that particular child. In more recent times, the Ministry of Education has implemented mandatory vision screening for children, and so through that, a lot of children have been identified who have vision problems. The screening test and would still need to get an eye examination because they have underlying vision problems. Now, on to part 2 of my presentation. Millions of children use computers on a daily basis. Extensive viewing of the computer screen can lead to eye discomfort, fatigue, blurred vision, and headaches, dry eyes, and other symptoms of eye strain. These symptoms may be caused by poor lighting, glare, improper workstation setup, vision problems of which the person was not prepared, or a combination of factors. I will point out here that this excerpt that I'm going to be reading is a summary of studies that were done in 2009 at the National Eye Hospital in Greece, as well as a study that was done in 2016 by myself and other colleagues on over 430 university students who would have been using devices at close range. So today, children can experience many of the same symptoms related to the use of computer, just as adults. However, there are some particular aspects of how children use the computer which may make them more susceptible than adults to the development of these problems. So when we look at these studies, we see that children may use their computers or their mobile devices very closely or for a very long period of time. Now, in the age of COVID-19, we have no choice but to turn to alternate means of education. So visual impairment or the visual impact of computer use has been studied extensively in adults, but few studies have been done in children. So far, this is what we know, that children who are viewing the computer extensively, they may experience eye discomfort, they may experience fatigue, so they may complain that they're tired. Their vision may be blurry. They may have constant headaches, or they may have dry eyes or other symptoms of eye strain. Now, poor lighting and glare and improper workstation setup are actually some of the culprits of why children would experience these visual problems. Children who have a vision problem but were not previously aware will now become increasingly aware because of the increased use of mobile devices and computers. In most cases, these symptoms occur because the visual demands of the task at hand is far superior than that was normally experienced. And so we have to look at this in terms of how we're going to implement this homeschooling or internet schooling for children. Now, If a child is doing an enjoyable task like playing a video game, and I'm sure many of us have seen it, it is really difficult to get them away from that device. Also, they have to be there with great concentration, holding their eyes steady for a long period of time, oftentimes for even hours with few or no break at all. This prolonged activity without any significant break can cause problems in the eye and headaches. So they may develop focusing problems in the eye because of that. And we call that accommodation spasm. So that's a big fancy word, right? But it is mostly caused by the eye strain. Now, they may also get eye irritation. Blinking is often inhibited. So we must remember to blink, especially when we're staring at a computer or a video screen. And this is a habit we're going to have to tell our children, remember to blink. Compounding this, computers are usually located higher in the field than traditional paperwork. So in terms of the positioning of the child, because they're so small, sometimes the screen is a little above them and they have to look up at the screen, which increases dryness and irritation according to the study. Now, children are adaptable. They adapt really quickly. The problem with that, though, is that they will ignore problems and not complain. So we must be very observant. We must look at how a child is viewing a screen. We must look at the angle at which they're looking at the screen. And we must ask them specific questions. For example, are you having a headache? Can you please tell me when you're having a headache? So we're gonna recap and look at now the points to consider. So one of the most important points is an eye examination. We have to make sure that the child can see clearly and comfortably for regular use of mobile devices and computers, so that if they need glasses or some kind of correction, they can get that in place for optimized use. We need to reduce the amount of time that the child continuously uses the computer. So for example, we have a 5-hour or 6-hour day of using the computer, then there need to be breaks. It is recommended that a 10-minute break be taken for every hour of work to minimize the development of accommodative eye problems in children. Carefully check the position of the computer. The computer monitor, the keyboard, the laptop, the tablet, it should be at eye level for the child. That can be difficult in some cases. Carefully check the lighting for glare on the computer screen. If you can reduce the glare by adding a screen protector on the screen, that would help significantly. Also, windows and other light sources may create glare on the screen. Reduce the amount of lighting in the room. So in some cases, a dimmer light may actually assist in helping the child to focus better and to have less eye strain. So children really do have different needs in order to use a computer comfortably. I trust that this presentation really opened your eyes and really would have provided you with some information in order to take the next step towards helping to identify children with vision impairment.
Thank you so much, Ms. Francis. That was indeed a very comprehensive and topical presentation. You have certainly opened our eyes to this issue. I certainly have learned a lot from your presentation. The signs and symptoms are right in front of our eyes, really. But now that you have put it together in this beautiful package, I believe that most persons present will remember what it is that we are looking for when we are assessing our children for signs and symptoms of blindness and visual impairment. And especially now when our students will be using virtual platforms for learning. Thank you again so very much, and we look forward to additional research into this put to practice within our schools. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at the participants, and we now have 66 participants. This symposium discussion is well attended. Kindly forgive me for having not specially acknowledged the executive of the Jamaica Society for the Blind and the Jamaica Teachers Association. I'm looking at the participants' names, and I've seen quite a number of persons who have recognized from past collaborations. And of course, what jumps out at me is Mr. Conrad Harris. We have been working together now for over 12 years. So thank you again for having me. And without further ado, I will now ask and invite the presenters, Ms. Kamika Brathwaite and Mr. Damian Rose, who will be looking at technology, a panacea for blindness and visual impairment in the classroom. May we welcome our presenters.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wright. Thank you. Okay, so education of our population is extremely important if we are to our countries to thrive and be successful at meeting the SDG goals. Education drives economic growth, improves the quality of life of a country's citizenry, and contributes to social stability. Quality of education for all includes those for children who are blind and visually impaired. Those children, though, are usually at a disadvantage because sometimes the way in which the curricular and instructional systems are implemented, they pose a problem. These children experience problems with understanding academic concepts, completing assignments, and taking exams. While a lot can be said about ensuring that teachers are trained in the necessary skills and techniques necessary and the equipment to teach these students, today we also want to highlight how the students themselves can help use technology as a bridge to help themselves to gain academic excellence. Technology has opened up a new world for the blind and visually impaired. Thanks to technology, certain tasks that used to be considered impossible for a blind or visually impaired person to do is now a simple maneuver with the help of some form of technology. Assistive technology is any device or software or device which can allow persons with disabilities to overcome their challenges. Screen reading and optical character recognition software, as well as talking and braille software, has afforded blind persons the ability to use computers, smartphones, and other devices. It is these technologies that can help blind and visually impaired students to surmount the difficulties they may have in the classroom. All right, so we're gonna look at different areas, different methods they can use, and we're gonna start with looking at how they can take notes, get instructions, and also to hand in assignments. So I'm gonna hand it over to Damian.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to start where Kamika said that back in the day, it was hard for persons to take notes. Well, not really to take notes, but just to function in the classroom. It was kind of a tedious task. I remember when I was at high school at Calabar, and there were about 6 of us as blind students at Calabar. We had 6 braillers. However, only 2 of them functioned properly. So it would be a race in the mornings to get to the office to get a brailler, right? But now, as Kamika has said, technology has come a far, far way in terms of aiding a blind or visually impaired student in a classroom. Now, let's take a look at some of the ways that a student can take notes. Well, let's start at recording. you know that with the teacher's permission, a student can record his or her notes using a digital recorder, which then he or she can then either transfer that information to their tablet or laptops using the USB port on the recorder. In terms of the phones and tablets, there are recorders that are available for these systems. For the iPhone has a very good recorder that is called a voice memo. It is very clean, very clear, and it would work very well in the classroom. For the Android systems, you can download an app called Amazing MP3 Sound Recorder. And this is one of the better apps for recording. So for both iOS and Android, there are recorders that you can use. If you don't want to record, but you want to get the notes in Word format, these devices also give you the chance to text, as in talk, and the phone or the device would convert it into text. So on the Android devices, you have a voice input. So whenever you bring up the keyboard, above the P on the keyboard is a voice input button. When you click that button, you get a prompt, an audio prompt that you can now say what you want to say. And while you speak, it will take that information, type it into text, and then you can save it. On the iPhone, there's a dictate button also. So when you click that, it performs the same action. There is also, for persons who are still able to use Braille, there's also a device called the Orbit Braille Reader that you can use to take notes, and you can also read back the information on the Braille display. So it is both used to take the notes, and the student can also be able to read back what he or she typed. Also, as Kamika mentioned, we have apps that are called optical character recognition apps. Now, since the whole advent of technologies, a lot of students these days are taking notes by getting a handout or from the board, taking an image of the notes. Now, with these apps, the blind persons can now be able to convert those notes into a readable format that the screen reader can understand. So on the iPhone, there's an app that can be used called Seeing AI, right? So if somebody sends you a picture message on the iPhone with a handout or questionnaires or whatever, you can go in and extract the text from that picture and your screen reader will read it. For the Android, there's one called SuperSense. And I will now demonstrate how on the Android you can use SuperSense to extract the text from the audio. Right. So earlier I had Kamika send me a text. Right.
Okay, thanks.
So she sent me the picture message. So what I will do, I will go in and I click on the view photo button, right? Then what I will do now, I will share the image with SuperSense.
WhatsApp, SuperSense.
And I click on
Double
SuperSense.
tap to activate, double tap and hold to long press. SuperSense. Start button.
The app then extracts the text from the document, and if I click the play button, it will actually read what I have there.
Pause. Courtesy rules of blindness. When you meet me, don't be ill at ease. It will help both of us if you remember these simple points of courtesy. 1. Help an ordinary person, just blind. You don't need to raise your voice or address me as if you were a child. Don't ask my spouse what I want. Cream in the coffee, ask me. 2. If I am walking,
right.
Don't
so
grab my arm. Home button.
as I said before, it extracted the text for me and make it so that the screen reader can understand it. There are also, for the visually impaired persons, you can use your phone as a magnifier so that you can hold the phone over the text if you are given the text on the handout, and it would magnify. Kamika, you want to give them some more information on that?
Right. So, well, just to repeat, when it comes to blind or visually impaired persons receiving information, electronically is key. So even to get exams, if they could get it electronically, then the screen readers, whether on any device, whether it's a computer or the smartphones or the tablets, the screen readers will read the information for them, right? Not only that, but as Damon just showed you, if they do get an electronic document and it's not necessarily in a format that the screen reader is able to read from, then there are apps as like what he just demonstrated that can do that. So there's a lot, right? Also, right now to look at persons, so those input methods as it relates to creating documents and in terms of how they can get their handouts and information, that can be used by both blind or visually impaired students. But let's look at visually impaired students. Persons who are low vision have vision loss that is not correctable by treatment or glasses anymore, right? So they have to resort to other forms of things that can help them to see better. They can use magnifiers, and the regular optical magnifiers, yes, some persons can use that, but some persons, low vision persons, still can't see those. And then you can go into the world of electronic magnifiers, right? So we're going to look at zoom technology and magnification technology. As it relates to the phones, for instance, on the iPhone, there is the option to turn on zoom. Now, for a low vision person, that is a great app to have. That's a great option to have, because zoom allows you to magnify or make larger whatever is actually on the screen of the phone or the tablet or whatever it is. Whatever is on the screen, zoom will allow you to magnify it. So if there's a picture and they can't see properly, they want to see more details, zoom will help with that. But then there's also magnifier on the phone as well. The magnifier uses the back camera of the phone or tablet, as well as the flashlight. And then the low vision person or visually impaired person can take that back camera and put over or in front of anything that they're trying to see, over text on paper, and it would come up on the screen larger. And they can also adjust the magnification, and that would help them significantly. And of course, there are other electronic magnifiers that, devices that are for the sole purpose of electronic magnifiers. But just to say, electronic magnifiers, you have different types. You have the portable ones that you can take around with you, and you also have the larger ones that the visually impaired person can have at home and or at school, wherever it is, and actually it's a desktop thing you can put it under, and you have really large magnification. Optical magnification can only go up to about 12 times the size, but electronic magnifiers go way beyond that. And so it's a very helpful, those tools are very helpful tools for low vision persons. All right, so just in closing, we want to just reiterate that there are different types of assistive technologies now available that can help the blind or visually impaired student, right? We would ask or recommend that each person, go through the different methods they have or the different options they have and find the one that fits them best, right? And apply those, right? And of course, Jamaica Society for the Blind stands ready to help to assist persons who will need help to use their devices. All right, thank you.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. I just sit here listening in awe. I could remember Mr. Harvey Grant from the Caribbean Council for the Blind. He had introduced me to some technologies that could assist the blind, but those technologies were very expensive and very, heavy and laborious. But now I'm being told that you could use your phone and the child will lead us, because these are young people who are introducing us to the world of assistive technologies. As a matter of fact, persons who are sighted could learn from the blind as to how to better use their telephone. I'm just so, we now have 83 participants, and I'm sure they are also awed at what we're learning here today. Thank you so much, Mrs. Brathwaite and Mr. Rose. Technology, it is really a panacea for blindness and visual impairment in the classroom. So this has opened up a whole new world for us. So we're going ahead quite nicely, and now it is obvious that persons who are blind or visually impaired could have psychological challenges, and these challenges may also affect their teachers. So we now welcome Mr. Sean Harvey for the third presentation, Overcoming the Psychological Challenges of Visual Impairment and Blindness for Teachers and Students. We welcome you, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so a sense of isolation, disconnection, and a significantly impaired sense of self-esteem may sometimes accompany blindness. My presentation will focus both on losing one sight and having discovered that one is blind. Now, as it relates to an individual who is losing or has lost their sight, the psychological impact can be very great. Those individuals sometimes go through a similar grieving process to what takes place with someone who has lost a loved one. Depending on whose theory you are examining, then you would realize that there are 5 stages of grieving. These stages include 1, denial. Denial is usually the most tumultuous stage of somebody who is losing their sight. And unfortunately, for some of us in the school system, we would have seen this denial upon our efforts to recruit persons into the school for the blind, or alerting a parent that his or her child needs to be provided for in an alternative manner. This denial is usually compounded, is usually made worse by some family traditions and family practices and some of our worldview in Jamaica, such as the questioning of the reason for that blindness. Because of the stigma of blindness in heavily conservative society such as ours, usually means that there'll be some religious implications being brought to bear on why there's a blind person in your family, unfortunately. The denial is further compounded by other family members who will tell these individuals that you will receive your sight, actually going against conventional or the biological fact that sometimes explain why the person is losing his or her sight. Made worse by promises of, I'm gonna fix the eye one day. Somebody go and send some whole heap of money and your sight will be restored. Yes, this type of denial actually makes it next to impossible for a child who has recently lost or are in the process of losing his or her sight, right? Makes it extremely difficult for that person to learn. It renders the teaching and learning process ineffective in a lot of cases, right? Okay, so the next stage would be anger. One of the most short-tempered individual in the school setting that you can find is somebody who has realized that his or her sight is going, gets into frequent fights, and is usually one of the most reported person to the principal's or dean of discipline's office. Bargaining, we would have, this is the next stage, we would have had instances of persons turning to one religion or another, bargaining with God that if you restore my sight, I will become a better person, I will, many other promises made. After bargaining, you would have had depression. Now, this is when the individual starts isolating him or herself, right? And all the other psychological characteristics of depression normally start setting in. Changing of one's diet, sleepless nights, rejecting formerly enjoyed hobbies, along with other signs and symptoms of depression. Acceptance. This is the stage that we would love to get all persons who have already acquired blindness, whether through birth or in early childhood. This is the stage that we would love to get our children to. When they are at this stage, they're able to perform. They're able to maximize their academic and vocational and all other potentials. This is the stage that usually results in our students who got blind. This is the stage in which those students normally comes out, start playing with their friends, start doing all the activities that they once did when they had their sight, or so all the sports now, they start playing the football, the cricket, the track and field, playing dominoes, going out with friends to social activities, and resuming life as they knew it prior to loss of sight. Or if the person has been blind from birth, living the life that all the persons of his or her similar age group from the general population would have been living, right? If the psychological trauma that comes with losing one's sight or being blind is supposed to be successfully tackled, a successful intervention is supposed to take place. Usually, a counseling program, a thorough counseling program should be administered. The counseling program usually has several objectives. The first of which is to allow the person to process his or her feeling, right? Allow the person to say what he's feeling, to write what he's feeling. If he's a musically inclined individual, to DJ or sing what he or she is feeling. Another important ingredient of that counseling session is providing the information to the individual about his or her sight condition, or about the biological reason for loss of sight. Now, we take it for granted that our students, our children, is aware of things like glaucoma, cataract, and other eye illnesses. But as the guidance counselor for the Salvation Army School for the Blind, I can tell you that majority of our students who comes to our school and are totally blind or are in the process of losing their sight, they have no idea as to what is happening with their eyes. Mommy or daddy take them to doctor. Doctor speak, doctor talking this and doctor talking that, using several jargons, tell mommy this, tell mommy that, and they have no idea as to why. Why am I here, right? What does this mean for my eye? So such an initiative has to be taken to provide the information to the child, a fulsome detail as to his or her diagnosis. One of the main tools that can be used to overcome the psychosocial challenge that comes with blindness is mentorship/behavior modeling, right? Providing a support group. Now, the term iron sharpened iron has never been, it's a cliche, and that is why it has been said on numerous occasions. It is something repeated every day, and I don't think persons know how vital this saying or how appropriate it is until it is repeated in that circle of blind persons, as in persons who have already been blind, and being assisted by persons who are just discovering their blindness. Now, the setting that Jamaica Society for the Blind and the Salvation Army School for the Blind has really utilizes that tool very effective. Now, what does this mean? To illustrate the evidence of the iron sharpened iron, I'm going to tell you about a student who came to us at the Salvation Army School for the Blind in January. 16 years old, lost his sight last year. He came to us. We are a boarding school, as some of you may know. For those who don't, we are the only school for the blind in the island. And as such, we board our students, the ones from the rural area. Now, the first night when that student came on boarding, you know how boys are. We're going to kick bottle night and day. That's just a part of boarding life. When he woke up and he saw the boys kicking around the bottle in the dark, he's wondering to himself, then, how me say them boy are blind? Me don't believe, me don't understand how they know they must see the bottle to kick it. Now, in 2 weeks' time, that individual became one of the main staple in our sports day, participating in goalball, track and field, and all the other events that the students at the school were already participating in. What it did for him, and earlier I would have mentioned the severe impact that blindness sometimes have, and the self-esteem. What this did for him is to boost his self-esteem, allowing him to realize that, yes, my life is really normal. So this severely boosts the self-esteem of those individuals, because what happens is that those persons get a chance firsthand to see who they could be like, what they can be, and hence is able to model the behavior of other persons who would have already been totally blind. Such a setting is extremely vital, because as persons in the community of persons with blind and visual impairment will know, there is no better teacher, right, of life skills to you than somebody who themselves has a blindness or visually impaired. Continuing, as identity crisis usually characterizes the teenage years of the low vision person. Why? The person who has a low vision sometimes try to identify with both persons who are totally blind and persons who are visually impaired. And the identity crisis is sometimes made worse by the public's lack of understanding of what blindness is. Because as far as the persons from the general population is concerned, once you have an eye problem, you're supposed to totally blind. So whenever these persons try to function in society on a day-to-day basis, all their actions are questioned by members of the general population. And the counseling program is usually geared to assist these persons to be assertive, to be able to explain clearly without being rude, right? Their eye conditions. Continuing, the level of disconnect that persons who are blind and visually impaired sometimes experience, that level of disconnect can be easily remedied. Now, this can be corrected by intervening in, the counseling sessions cannot only be conducted with the individual who is blind or visually impaired. Family integration is extremely important, because especially for an individual who is born without his or her sight, his or her ability to function, his or her feeling of total connectedness with the society comes from his or her first agent of socialization, who is the family. Now, the family at that stage can ensure that this individual is totally connected with the external world by including him or her in daily activities. I mean, I tell persons all the while that I did not know that I was so-called blind until sighted persons came around and was wondering how is it that I wasn't bumping into anything when I was riding my bicycle that I was bought at age 5, right?
Hello.
When my mom sent me to turn the stove off or to change the regulator at age 6. So she parental structure are what goes on in ensuring that the individual is fully incorporated in all the daily life activities is key to ensuring the person becomes fully connected with the sighted world, right? And so ensuring that we have an instance of a child who 5 Christmases ago, her parent brought something from Grand Market that she bought for her. The child didn't take it. Why? Because as far as the child was concerned, how you go Grand Market without me, you still want to come buy something give me when you don't know whether or not me want. And all the child's other siblings went to Grand Market with mommy. So ensuring that level of inclusivity from early childhood is key to a well-functioning child who is blind or visually impaired. Getting to a point that the person is fully healed psychologically from being blind or visually impaired, how do you know when you have gotten to that point? Ultimately, the counseling program is geared towards ensuring that persons who are blind and visually impaired is fully comfortable with discussing these issues. So a person who goes through a full psychosocial intervention, a full counseling program, should be able to speak freely of his or her issues confronting blind or visual impairedness, and ultimately should be able to serve as a mentor for other persons who themselves would have been dealing with the same issue. Hence, would have been able to be doing the same thing that I am currently doing, right? And that is when you would have known that this individual has now come what we call full circle, would have achieved total catharsis, would have been fully advanced from a psychological standpoint as a blind or visually impaired individual. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey. I can tell you for sure that that presentation has warmed our hearts, and there is indeed hope in sight. You're indeed an asset to your organization as a guidance counselor. You can definitely coach and counsel other persons with blindness or visual impairment. So at this time, may we invite the questions for our presenters to respond to? I'm looking through the chat, and there is one question about whether or not the symposium will be recorded. Yes, it is being recorded, and I give permission for my inclusion in it to be shared. So that's a question. And Scarlett, Charlotte, you're back on now with your question. Could you kindly make it short for us, because I'm sure other persons have questions as well.
My question to Ms. Brathwaite and Mr. Rose is that how do you deal with persons who has young children and not going to school for the blind now, and their parents who have to be teaching them? Will they be getting some kind of help somewhat, somehow? How do you deal with that for them? Those that have children like 5, 6 years old, 7 or thereabout, how do you really deal with that for the parents and students?
Yes, hi Charlotte. Right, we have actually been doing that sometimes. If a parent has a visually impaired child and they need some assistance, they can come in at the Jamaica Society for the Blind, and we will sit with them, have a consultation, talk with them based on, and try to ascertain exactly what the child's vision is, because if it's low vision, you're going to help them with different methods than someone who is totally blind, if the child is totally blind. So yes, they can come here. I have sat with mommies, some parents, and show them how to use a tablet, for instance, and make it adapt the tablet adaptable, change it up when it comes to turning on the screen reader, showing the child and her, because the parent, the child is so young, you want to ensure the parent themselves know how to use it so they can help the child at home. So teach a parent and the child how to turn on the Zoom, turn on magnification, and so on. So they can come and talk to us about things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? We are now up to 69 participants, and it seems as if the presentations have all been very clear.
There is a question.
In the
Dr.
chat?
Wright, Lola Marson.
Hello, Ms. Marston, how are you?
Not too bad, and you?
Fine, thanks. You have the question, please go ahead.
Yes, I have a question, and maybe Sean can help me. I'm very concerned in this time of COVID-19 as to what preparations are being made when most children are at home and studying and going to school from home. What preparations are being made for blind and visually impaired children at the School for the Blind?
Excellent, excellent question.
All right, thank you very much for that question. Okay, so at present, as you can imagine, this would have been a very difficult time for us. So what is happening, some of our students, well, about 25% of our student population would have gotten some assistance as it relates to tablets from the collaborative efforts between the JCPD and the Digital Foundation, right? For those who haven't gotten tablets, we are still in the process of liaising with the Ministry of Education, who has been making additional tablets available for some of our students. And of course, the Jamaica Society for the Blind, through Ms. Brathwaite, is assisting us to assist our parents via phone to help them to be able to customize the settings on the tablets and the smartphone to suit the child with blind or visual impairment. In addition, but still most of the contact is taking place via regular telephone call teaching right now on WhatsApp. So we still, owing to the fact that majority of our students would have been familiar with WhatsApp, some of them would have had smartphones prior to this ordeal. So the teachers are still giving the lessons via WhatsApp, allowing them to do audio responses, right, via voice notes and so forth. So that is taking place, but we do have challenges with some students who are from remote locations who have literally no access to internet nor device, but the business of teaching and learning is taking place as we speak, but mainly with WhatsApp, some Google Classroom, limited number, yes, but vastly through WhatsApp. And the tablets are coming in slowly. So I will still take the time to appeal to any kind persons who wishes to assist anyone of our blind and visually impaired students with such with such a gesture. We would welcome. But yes, we are still continuing the teaching and learning process. Thank you.
Harvey, that was very, answered more than the question asked. But again, thank you very much. And we are seeking your assistance where possible to assist our students with the appropriate devices for learning. Well,
hello.
there being no other questions.
I have a question.
You have a question, okay.
Yes. I'm Romar Lyons. I'm actually a reporter from the Gleaner Company. I want to ask Mr. Conrad Harris if he believes that, enough consideration is being given to students, not only students who are at the Jamaica Society for the Blind now, but the School for the Blind, but students who are a part of, regular high schools across Jamaica who are now having to be attending virtual classes. Does he believe that, the Ministry of Education has given consideration to those students, or enough consideration?
Okay, good afternoon. I know that there are efforts being made to help the students. At this particular time, I cannot say that all the students that, all the students that are blind or visually impaired have the necessary assistance that they need. I think, and Sean as well, in terms of his response, spoke to that there are still students who are blind and visually impaired who some do not have the devices, and of course some might not necessarily have the training that would help them to utilize those devices. So yes, there is a gap there at this particular time.
All right.
Mr. Lyons, may
Yes.
I ask you to publicize the need for persons in the business and other NGO communities to participate in this program, this outreach to assist our students who are visually impaired or blind?
Definitely.
Okay, thank you so much. From the chat.
Wait, sorry, I have another question. I'm not sure if the lady is still here though. Miss Francis, Mayana Francis, I'm not sure if that's the correct name. Yes, Mayana Francis.
Yes,
She
she's
gave
still
the
on.
Yes, you gave the
Hi,
presentation.
I'm here.
Yes, you gave the presentation on, the effects of having children, around devices and computers for extended periods. You also mentioned that it's a very trying or troubling time now that students are at home, and in order to learn, they have to be around these devices.
Around the devices, but what we have to strive for is balance, right? So we have to strive for balance in terms of how long they're staring at the screen. They need to learn. I have to take breaks. I have to remember to blink. Also, we need to strive to have the children get an eye examination. So if it is that they're in need of glasses, they can get these glasses that will enhance their performance at these screens.
Good response. I'm just going to the chat. Mr. Harris, somebody was asking, how do you treat with a student who is both deaf and blind? Is there any special accommodation for such persons?
The schools for the blind used to have a unit, and I think
Okay.
There are ways to assist those persons.
Yes.
And in fact,
once they're at the school for the blind, accommodation can be made for other agencies to assist. And another person from the Vision Center is saying that there are free software such as NVDA and JAWS that could be put on computers and tablets and iPhones. So again, it's so good to share this information with you all. Mr. Boyd?
Yes, I'd like to ask a question.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Boyd.
Okay, what are you guys doing for people who are visually or disabled in every way to help them, their children who are going to school now with computers?
Well, I am just off the top of my head, I know that the persons with disabilities were focused on in the Ministry of Finance's assistance programs. You would have to be registered, and I know that they would be getting some allowances for the period, the COVID period, and I believe that that is being extended.
Well, I'm just asking about like to get computers for people who like myself, who not working for my daughter. Well, I am a visually impaired person, and I am not working, and my daughter needs to go to school and to get into the technology system, into the system, right?
Okay.
Of learning.
May I ask you to give your information to Mr. Harris, and we will see what can be done to assist you, sir. and others.
Okay.
We are not making any promises, but
I'm not
certainly
expecting a promise, but I expect an answer somewhere, one way or another.
May I ask you to make a personal contact with Mr. Harris? We cannot answer all the questions in this.
I will do. I will make
in this
Yes,
forum.
I just want to say he can contact Jamaica Society for the Blind, and we'll see how we can best assist. 927-6757 or 927-6759.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, I really have been blessed. And I do believe that hope is indeed in sight. We have come to the end of the presentations and the question and answers, and now we're moving into the icing on the cake, the burrata. According to the agenda, we will now be having the presentation of the Jamaica Society for the Blind scholarships. And at this point, may I invite Mrs. Mary Mitchell Coombs, the Jsb Scholarship Chairperson, to manage this part of the program. Mrs. Mitchell Coombs, welcome.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me say a pleasant afternoon to everyone. All protocols observed. First, I would like to thank the Jamaica Teachers Association for facilitating our scholarship award presentation in their space. This scholarship was born from the Jamaica Society for the Blind mandate to promote the education and training of our members, as we thought this is the only avenue to address the economic, social, personal development, and ultimately self-sustainability of challenges of our members. The Scholarship Assistance Program was officially launched in 2014. Since its inception, we have been able to assist over 14 persons to various institutions, the UWI, UTech, MICO, EXED, and secondary schools, as well as for students who are doing short courses like at GARMEX or at NTA. We give grants to these people as well. The need is great, but the JSB is determined to fulfill its mandate. And we really look forward to a lasting relationship, a lasting working relationship with the JTA. We are really happy that they have come on board. I am honored to announce the recipients for the 2020-2021 awardees for this academic year. First of all, coming from the Salvation Army School for the Blind with a $50,000 scholarship award is Miss Sonika Palmer. Let's congratulate her. We are sorry that the COVID has really affected even this part of our lives. We are not able to physically present this award. But Mr. Conrad Harris, as you can see on your screen, Mr. Conrad Harris is doing the presentation of the check to Miss Sonika Palmer as soon as it is convenient. Thank you very much, Ms. Palmer, for applying. Secondly, from the University of the West Indies is Hibbert with a $100,000 award to complete her training. And we must congratulate Ms. Hibbert as well. Yes, let me go on. Let's congratulate them both and wish them all the best in their studies and in their future endeavors. And for our listeners, we say, come on board. Let's make a difference to the lives of the members of the Jamaica Society for the Blind. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I am sure you've made some persons and families very happy this afternoon. It is indeed a pleasure to have been here and to participate. And I am now at the end of my my tenure. I would like now to thank you all for being here. Thank you all for participating. Thank the Jamaica Society for the Blind and the JTA for inviting me to this wonderful celebration. And I now hand over to Mrs. Patricia James, who will do the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Madam Chairperson, Dr. Beverly Wright, Mr. Conrad Harris, Executive Director of the Jamaica Society for the Blind, Mr. Jasford Gabriel, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mr. Damian McLean, Chairman of the Jamaica Society for the Blind, all our presenters, colleagues, all, good afternoon. Today, as you're aware, is celebrated as World Sight Day. And we have been feasted, on information that will make our lives better. And we too will make others, the lives of others, better. You will agree with me that it is a very timely presentation, a very timely seminar. And all the presenters have captured our attention. They have opened our eyes, and we are in a better position to go forth and be ambassadors and to build awareness and acceptance of others, persons who are visually impaired or blind in our schools, in our communities, and more so in the world at large. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Miss Maya Francis spoke about the signs and symptoms of visual.
Indeed.
And you know, as I listen to her as an educator, these are some of the signs we see in our classrooms. And I would have hoped that more teachers would have been here this afternoon to listen and to make notes, so that even as we navigate the challenges of COVID-19 and having our children, you know, integrate into the world of technology, you know, we ought to be careful. And so thank you, Miss Francis, for sharing those words of wisdom with us. Miss Kamika Brathwaite and Mr. Damian Rose shared on technology. And I sat and I listened and I viewed the use of, you know, the different devices. And I'm thinking, you know, God is good. He has given wisdom to man. And so we thank the Lord for having given men and us all the wisdom so that we can make the lives of others better through these technological devices. And so thank you, team, for your input in our seminar this afternoon. Mr. Harvey spoke, and of course he said iron sharpens iron. And you know, even as Christians, you know, the Bible said we should come together. We should not neglect the meeting together, because unity is strength. And so, yes, inclusivity of persons with visual impairment and blindness is important, even as we integrate them into our communities, into the world at large. And so we thank you, sir. We see your passion, and we thank you for sharing it with us this afternoon. As was mentioned, the Jamaica Teachers Association, of which I am the chairperson for the Special Education Committee, we are partnering with the Jamaica Society for the Blind. And so we thank our president for having shared his greetings with us this afternoon. We thank also the Jamaica Teachers Association and our Secretary General, Mr. Byron Farquharson, for his commitment to offer a scholarship or contribution towards a scholarship in the sum of $50,000. And so we pray that even as our young people, as they participate and engage in learning, that they themselves will be ambassadors, and they'll be the change that our society needs, even as they they increase in knowledge and wisdom. Colleagues all, it was an evening well spent. And I enjoyed being a part of this committee. I enjoyed being a part of this team. And so on behalf of Jamaica Teachers Association, Special Education Committee, the Jamaica Society for the Blind team, thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you all for sharing with us this afternoon. And as we go forth, may we be ambassadors. May we make a pledge to make a difference in the lives of persons who are visually impaired or blind. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Anglin James. And may I also thank you for the way in which you have thanked all of us. In my closing remarks, again, I apologize for not opening with the protocol, but you have ended it with it, and I thank you for that as well. And may I, on behalf of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, encourage all persons in this forum to encourage others and they themselves to practice what we have said about COVID-19. COVID, the visually impaired, the blind, the sighted, all of us are vulnerable, and as such, we need to practice the 3 recommendations by the Ministry of Health and Wellness: physical distancing, wearing your face covering, and hand hygiene. At least those 3 will protect you going forward. Until we meet again, I thank you and have a blessed afternoon and evening. May I now hand over back to Ms. Brathwaite or Ms. Brathwaite? Do you have anything to say at the end? If not,
no, just thank you very much, Dr. Wright, for hosting the meeting and moderating. We are now finished. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and we are hoping that you learned something and that you will continue to pass on the information.